Welcome to Take the Exit, the podcast where we explore the stories that intersect with transportation in Illinois. Hi, welcome to Take the Exit. This is the fourth episode that we've done, and today we are welcoming Lora Rensing. She is the Director of Highways and Project Implementation at IDOT. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about that, but just give us a rundown about your time at IDOT.
All right, thank you. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. Thank you for having me. It's really a great opportunity. Again, I'm Lora Rensing. I am, like you said, the Director of Highways Project Implementation. It's quite a mouthful, and I've been in this position for about 6 months. I've been with the department for over 25 years. I started
Just a
out
short time,
just a short time. Started out my career, well, first of all, I went to Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville and got my Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering there. While I was in school, I did quite a number of different internships. A couple notable ones, I worked for one of our local municipalities there. Worked in their sewer and street department, doing some pre-engineering work there.
Exciting.
It was. I enjoyed that quite a bit. And then I went to the Corps of Engineers in our St. Louis district. Worked on a lot of the locks and dams and instrumentation on all of those locks and dams and reservoirs in the area. It was a very, very interesting job. And then upon graduation, I decided to move over to transportation and took my first job out of school with IDOT, working in our District 8 office down in Collinsville, and just have really enjoyed it. And over the course of my career, I've moved through, I've done some work in design and some of our local agency project area, spent some time, overseeing materials, construction, ultimately, project implementation engineer for a number of years down there. And then a few years ago, moved up to our Central Bureau of Construction in the headquarters, which is where we are now. Yep. And then again, 6 months ago, was promoted to our Director of Highways. So very, very excited to be in this position. It's an exciting challenge. So
It sounds like we found the right person based on your experience and history with all the facets of IDOT. So it's good to have you in this spot.
Thanks.
So as Director of Highways and Project Implementation, what does that encompass? That's like a mouthful, but also it's a huge job at IDOT.
It is a mouthful, and it's for short, we can just say Director of Highways. I think, historically we called it that, and then over the course of time they modified it, and I think it's just simpler to think of it that way.
Sure.
It's really encompassing everything and anything dealing with highways and bridges in the state of Illinois. Primarily IDOT owned and maintained infrastructure, but we also oversee local agency infrastructure that is being either built or maintained with any sort of federal or state transportation funds. So we have a lot of oversight over the infrastructure for transportation, mainly the surface infrastructure that we're all used to, using on a daily basis. Primarily is through my office. So there's probably, I would say, two parts to that. We have 9 different districts throughout the state. Those are combined into 5 regions, and I oversee all of those district offices and regions. We have about 4,400 employees in our office, and they are, of course, all across the state. So there's a lot going on. The district offices really handle a lot of the day-to-day activities. They are the ones that are really building our infrastructure, maintaining our infrastructure, and keeping all of the things, moving and working for the public. But we also have the other piece of that, which is our central offices. So we have 8 central offices, and that's really the area that we look to provide policies, kind of basically make sure that there's consistency across the state as much as possible.
Sure.
We also work to procure the contracts. So a lot of the contract procurement, the bid lettings, and all of those things happen, primarily through our central office. But we have 8 central offices. The big ones, which are design, construction, materials, operations, which is what we call maintenance. And then we also have our local roads division. We have our safety engineering area. We have land acquisition.
You mentioned all the different areas. It's a huge kind of oversight role for you. What gets you excited to come to work every day? What do you look forward to?
Oh my gosh. A lot, actually. First of all, IDOT is a fantastic place to work, just hands down. Like I said, I've been here 25 years. Of course, a job comes with challenges, but these are challenges that are exciting. I think the work that we do, it's motivating to me because I know that the decisions that I'm making on a daily basis impact every person I know and beyond.
Yeah.
The things that we're talking about and the decisions that we're making are real. They're impactful to every person in some way, shape, or fashion.
And
sometimes
immediate.
it's immediate.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a direct relationship. Maybe it's, your mom or your dad trying to get, from home to the grocery store or back, Maybe it's trying to get to the doctor's office. Maybe it's someone, ordering an Amazon order and wanting to make sure it gets delivered on time.
Most importantly.
These are all things that we all depend on transportation for. And so for me, it's just understanding the importance of what I do that really just, I think, charges me up. The other piece of that is just being that guidance arm, that helper, that ability to assist. I think I mentioned I've spent a lot of time in our local roads division where we worked really closely with our local municipalities and some of our communities that are really trying to get their projects done. And we're a big agency, and there's, when you're working with federal and state money, there's a lot of, I hate to use the word, but kind of red tape, I guess, that we all have to try to navigate through, all of the different rules and things, and being able to, be that voice that kind of helps guide them in the right direction and find the path of least resistance, so to speak, and really help them achieve the results that they're trying to achieve. I mean, that's just very rewarding for me.
Okay. So that was going to be the next part of my question about what the most rewarding part of your job is, or working at IDOT, I guess you could say.
A lot of it is just, like I said, being able to be a part of that big process. I think it's exciting whenever you're, my kids kind of laugh. We're driving down the road and things that nobody ever thinks about, but they're on my mind. You're looking and you're seeing, that's asphalt pavement, that's concrete pavement, that's a guardrail. That's all of these things that we think about as providing safe and efficient transportation. Honestly, our goal in some ways is that people aren't thinking about it, right? Because sometimes when you're thinking about it, it's a problem.
Yes.
But we want it to work smoothly. We want it to work well. We want it to be there when you depend on it, and so there's just a lot of pride in that, and in that involvement.
Yes, we are users of the system ourselves, so it's important. You mentioned your kids, and I have 2 daughters, and they're both pretty interested in math and science, and they do think about that kind of stuff. They have a lot of questions when we're on road trips, but I was going to say, you're a woman in engineering, a predominantly male field in a male-dominated industry as well. Do you think about that a lot, or how does that play into your career over the years?
That's an interesting question, and I get that question a lot, actually. I think it's twofold. In some ways, I don't think about it much at all,
right? And
I think that's a testament to how well IDOT is set up to really be inclusive of everyone. So I would say, over the course of my career, I have very few, if any, real situations that have made me feel inferior.
Okay.
It's a wonderful agency. It
yes.
really is. It's a wonderful agency. I've always been treated with respect. I've always been, allowed a seat at the table. And so a lot of times I don't notice, these are the people I've worked with. I'm used to working with a lot of men because, even through college, I was one of 3 females that graduated in my class. And I think I'm just kind of used to, being surrounded by males in a lot of meetings and such, but I don't really think about it a lot because of that, I think. And I think the other piece of it too is, my parents were always just, I have a sister. It's me and my sister. And we were brought up to never think that there was something we couldn't do. My parents were very supportive of, we can do whatever a man can do. And so I think I've kind of just had that mindset pretty much my whole life, that if it can be done, I can do it too. So I think that's
how hard
kind
can
of,
it be?
Well, and why couldn't I? Right. So
exactly.
I'm very fortunate. I feel very thankful to my parents for, always, pushing us forward in that direction. And so I think in some ways I really haven't had to think about it a lot. But I won't say that there weren't some challenges.
I'm sure, yeah.
There are. I think that when I hit those challenges, I hit them head on. I'm kind of a little bit competitive by nature, I think. So that might help in some ways,
it's a positive, for sure.
I feel like if there's somebody that's going to do, if there's work to be done, then I'm going to do it my best, and I'm going to try to do it better than anybody else. So I think that might play into it a little bit too, just, pushing that envelope and making sure that I am standing out, if I can. But yeah, I think that, IDOT's been very kind to me over the course of my career, and that's been very much appreciated. I also have, I have to give credit to some of the mentors that came before me. We've had some very significant women, in our industry that have paved the way for me and others. I hope to continue paving that way for others to come behind me, because we do need a seat at the table. And we need to continue fighting for that seat at the table, right? But we really, I've been very fortunate. I've had some very good female mentors. And I'm a bit humbled too, in the sense that, I'm the second female director of highways for the department ever in history.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of it. But it's a lot of work to get here.
You're in the seat for a reason, though.
I feel like I'm in the seat for a reason. Yep. And, I feel like there's a lot of responsibility with this position in general. But I take it seriously, that I also want to make sure that I maintain the confidence in the female.
Yeah, well, it feels like the workplace culture here is, going in the right direction. We have women in leadership here at IDOT. Our top leader, Secretary Biaggi, is, she's new, but she's here and making an impact already. So it's promising. What would you say to, let's say, my daughter, who is interested in becoming an engineer? She's 10. Doesn't know a whole lot about what that means, but what would you say to a girl or even a young woman in college wanting to pursue a career in engineering?
I would say kind of the same thing that my parents said to me. You do what you want to do, and you don't think about whether you're a female or a male. If you want to do it, do it. Yeah. So that's number one. The second thing is, she's not alone for not knowing what engineering is.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
I think that's. I think it may be a little easier today with all of the resources that kids have. But I don't think that's abnormal to not fully understand what engineering is, but that's because engineering is so broad.
Sure.
And there's so many things that you can do in the engineering realm. I mean, case in point, in IDOT even. I think that's one of the wonderful things about working here, is that you don't really get, so tightly focused on one specific area of the engineering field or the transportation field. We have so many different things that we can do here with an engineering degree. It's endless possibilities.
All the time I'm meeting people here and I'm thinking, that's a cool job. That things you would not even imagine in terms of transportation or just the related jobs you can have. So it's just a lot of variety.
Absolutely. And I remember, we're going to kind of step back for a moment, but
sure.
When I was, in high school, I loved math and science. That was, mainly math, science as well. But that was really where my brain was geared. And I had, teachers at the time saying, oh, you should think about engineering. And I remember thinking, okay, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that means, and, then they would say things like, oh, well, engineers are really good at solving problems.
Ooh.
Okay, that's great.
It's
but what does that mean, right? But what does that mean? And so, for a long time, and I kind of even went into engineering not fully knowing what it was going to be whenever I got done.
What you're getting yourself
really,
into. Yeah.
Exactly. But I knew that when I started the engineering, it was kind of because it was math and science based. And the more I got into those classes, the more I started really, seeing what I enjoyed and really kind of getting charged up by some of the curriculum. But I don't think it's abnormal to not understand what it is. But there's so many different possibilities. And I remember one of the questions I had always was, okay, but what does it look like? Mm-hmm. Because I think kids especially can, they can visualize a teacher, they can visualize mm-hmm. a nurse, they can visualize a doctor, a lawyer, or some of these that you think of that and you think, okay, I know what that daily life is going to look like, yep. right? Yep. When it comes to engineering, your daily life can be anything. You can be sitting behind a desk and working on designs all day long. You could be out in the field monitoring construction projects all day long, and anything in between, right? So you can have a combination of field work and office work, and there's so many different possibilities. It's just hard to tangibly think of, what does that daily life look like?
Yeah, I have an example of that. My youngest, on the first day of school, we did, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she's like, I want to work at IDOT. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And she said, cash register. I said, okay, all right. Why not? Okay.
Well, there's somebody that collects the bills, too.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Is there anything about that you think the average person would be surprised about IDOT and the work that we do here, whether it's projects or, anything?
I'm sure. Yes. I'm sure. Until you work here, you really don't quite understand all of the facets of what we do.
Sure.
We are a huge agency that is involved in so many aspects of life that the average person would not even remotely be thinking about. Mm-hmm. One thing that comes to mind for me just right out of the gate is we are really truly part of the emergency response system, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of people don't recognize IDOT's involvement whenever there are natural disasters, whenever there's crashes on the interstate or on a 2-lane road. Our people are out there. Our people are part of that process. We're helping Illinois State Police. Oftentimes, we are often partnering with IEMA and some of the other agencies that are working to deal with natural disasters. Flooding, tornadoes, of course, snow and ice. Mm-hmm. Snow and ice removal is one of our main jobs in the wintertime. But we deal with all of the things that go along with that, other than just snow removal. We're dealing with, the folks that are getting stranded. And we even did quite a bit during COVID-19 and helping to transport materials and equipment and supplies, to various different areas of the state.
Became like a logistics.
It really did.
Agency, yeah.
Absolutely. And we partner really well with other agencies to help them out in all sorts of crises. So I think that's just something that we kind of do behind the scenes that no one really recognizes on the general public.
We have people who've literally saved lives at IDOT.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
When there's a crash or a major event like
right.
that. So
no, and you bring up a good point, because we do have our emergency patrol vehicles mm-hmm. that are primarily in the Metro East region and also in the Chicagoland region.
Sure.
But those are IDOT individuals that are, consistently driving the interstate system, looking for stranded vehicles, people who need help, so that we can, basically block off the lane, kind of get them into a safe situation so they can either change their tire. Sometimes we help them do that. Mm-hmm. But then you're right. I mean, a lot of these folks come across very odd situations. And we've had a number of instances where our own employees are, they jump into action if they see an issue. We've had, like you said, we've had employees that have literally pulled people from burning vehicles and truly been heroes. And luckily that they're there and they have the skill and the ability to be able to do that. So we really are public servants. And I think that's something that a lot of times we think of engineering, we think of design plans, all of these things that go along
sure.
with, building infrastructure and all of those things. But I think what we sometimes take for granted is that the people behind that are truly public servants at heart.
I don't know how we compare to other state agencies, but I've met a lot of people that have been here for as long as you have, or sometimes even longer. I feel like we have great retention here. There's people that stick around and feel very passionate about working at IDOT. So in addition to that, what else would you tell someone who's pursuing a career, who's put in an application at IDOT, or who is maybe just getting out of school and kind of weighing their options? What would you say about IDOT as coming here as a place to work?
So when you come to IDOT, you're learning the whole world of transportation. You're
Sure.
not just coming into IDOT and saying, okay, well, I'm going to learn this one piece of the transportation realm, and I'm going to stay here, and this is all I'm going to get. I think you heard in my career, I've got 4 or 5 different areas in my background. That's not uncommon.
There was a path too that you could continue upon.
Absolutely. We have a lot of room for growth in your career. This is not a place where you're going to get capped or stalled. We constantly have, openings. We're huge agencies, so we have a lot of opportunities over the course of time. People eventually, they stick around, but eventually they retire, right? That's the end game.
Yes.
So they retire, and we do have people who obviously they promote, they move on, and then a vacancy is opened up, and then that allows for some succession through. So there's a lot of opportunities here. We have great benefits. Whenever I was starting my career, I was thinking about the long game, and I thought, well, let me look at that. What does that look like for, when I want to have a family, right? When I was coming out of school, I knew that was a part of what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And so I thought about that and say, okay, well, when I start a family, what is that going to look like? What kind of flexibility am I going to have whenever I do have a family? Because we are a large organization, we have kind of built-in overlap in cases, right? So
Sure.
You do have the flexibility to take, some time off when you need to, and basically live the other part of your life. Because let's be honest, we love to work. Don't get me wrong, we love to work, but we work to live. We work to live our lives and to enjoy our families, and that is truly the work-life balance that we're all trying to accomplish. I think IDOT provides a really good place to find that work-life balance.
I would agree. I think it's a great balance. It offers a lot of opportunity, but also you can be a person.
Yes, you can.
And live your life. So.
Yep.
Thanks for riding along with IDOT. This has been Take the Exit. For more inside information on transportation in Illinois, find us on social media or idot.illinois.gov.